Welcome. We're with Jon Nakamatsu, our featured soloist for the blockbuster Russian program that the Peninsula Symphony will be playing on February 25th and 26th, including the great Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto No. 1. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you. Great
It's
to be
always
here.
great to see you. We haven't had a chance to work together or even see each other in a couple of
No,
years. How
yeah.
are you, and how is the piano world of Jon Nakamatsu at the moment?
Well, we are all fine, and we've, knock on something, we've been healthy and happily at home. I started traveling again about May of last year, and had a full summer season, albeit somewhat adjusted or abbreviated, and the fall and essentially until January had been really quite normal. And then I had a bunch of cancellations in January, but started up again last week. And so I think things are going back in whatever form they may be, but it's nice to play music, that's for sure.
Yeah, Peninsula Symphony came back for its October concerts,
Mm.
and we've had some other events and concerts, and we've had to postpone some and cancel some rehearsals through Omicron, but things are looking a lot better. We're now a couple of weeks away from these end of February concerts, and everything is looking good. So we're expecting to be able to do this big program with Russian Easter Overture, Rimsky-Korsakov, and Shostakovich's monumental, very controversial Fifth Symphony.
Wow.
But the centerpiece of the program is the great Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto. Um, it's just a piece that I know you love, and you know that I love. Um,
Yes.
Tell me about your experience with this piece. How long has this piece always been in your repertoire? What draws you to it? What draws you back to it?
Well, I think like a lot of kids, it's always been in my dreams. It was the first concerto as a child that I think I fell in love with, just listening to recordings and thinking that, wow, this must be absolutely unplayable. And uh, I remember my favorite recording was the Horowitz Toscanini recording with the NBC orchestra. And I listened to that day in and out. And
Me
my
too. That
mother
was,
even, yeah,
yeah,
that was the one, right?
the
That's,
LP
mhm.
of that.
And also
Uh,
Van Cliburn's with Kondrashin, and right after the competition, and
right.
that was a big one that everybody had to have. And somehow I got my hands on the score when I was maybe 9 or 8 or something, and just looked through it and think, wow, I wish someday I could play it. But then, once I started traveling professionally, I had learned the piece sort of when I was younger, and then never really played it. And then it became this thing, this is kind of funny, but it became a thing where I was like, how long could I actually go on in this career without playing the Tchaikovsky concerto? So it was like maybe 10 full years of touring before somebody said, okay, look, you're gonna have to play this piece. Like, can you just come play it? And I said, okay, fine, I'll break down and do it. And I assumed that maybe I do it at some point, but I then loved it in a different way because I got the chance to play it, and I was really excited to do it for the first time and every subsequent time. And you and I have done it, and that's even more, I think, fun because we get to experience something in a new way with all of the knowledge from the last time we did it as well. So I think that's just very, very exciting, and that's how we tend to keep it fresh and grow and change how things are done.
Was learning to master the big, horrendously difficult, I hate to say that before the concert,
No,
um,
now, now I'll get nervous.
passages, was that a bigger obstacle, or is it just the concept of the piece and the wild changes of emotion that are Tchaikovsky?
I think it's a combination of that. I mean, that's a really good question because, uh, you could say, yeah, it's physically really tough to play because it's also not very comfortable for the piano. Believe it or not, a lot of it is written in a very strange way and in strange positions for the hand. Plus, my hands are a little bit under average in terms of size, so I'm somewhat disadvantaged from that standpoint as well. But if it was just a matter of playing the notes, I think most pianists can do that. What is then hard is to try to infuse that or make the notes mean something. And that really is, I think, our lifetime pursuit. We can actually find a way to play the notes, but to then concurrently understand what they all mean is the true challenge for all of us. And I think even in something that's so standard for all pianists, so to speak, to learn, I don't think we really scratch the surface of the potential, in a lifetime. There's so much in it,
Yeah, and I
like in
think
all great works.
yeah, we can still see why it was such a troubling piece in Tchaikovsky's early
Really
life.
can. Yeah.
Just to recap the story, you probably know different aspects of this story, but he presented it to his dear friend and mentor, Nikolai Rubinstein, the great pianist, and played it for him. And Rubinstein just raked him over the coals,
Yeah.
told him it was garbage,
Oh,
and that he was garbage, and it just and Tchaikovsky was such a whirlwind of contrasting and conflicting emotions anyway.
mhm.
And then the piece was finally premiered in Boston by Hans von Bülow.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, and I guess some people speculated that Tchaikovsky was thrilled that it would be premiered as far away from him as possible.
I can imagine. Yeah, after that reception. Yeah.
And I guess it was played quite badly the first couple of times, and that was when it was premiered in Russia. It was played poorly a couple of times, and then von Bülow and Rubinstein both became its champions. And
Mhm.
but I guess, and here's the point: audiences always loved it,
Yes,
right
that's
from the
right.
very beginning,
Right from the start. Yeah.
and that's what Tchaikovsky. That's the curse and the joy of Tchaikovsky's identity, that he wrote for an audience. He wrote to move an audience, and he is so uniquely gifted at doing that, at
Hmm.
communicating to an audience. And of course, that makes critics crazy, because he was not writing for critics. He was not writing for history. He was writing for an audience.
Well, and I think part of the initial criticism from Rubinstein, Nikolai Rubinstein, was that he considered it pianistically also unplayable, and some of the difficulties were so extreme that he said, "Well, this is garbage. Why would anybody do this if you can't play it?" But it just kind of speaks to, I think, how great works are formed and born and received, um, because it's new, so no one has done that. No one played like that. No one used that combination of technique to form this. So of course it seems almost impossible. But to us, 150, however many years later, it it is such a part of our collective musical culture that you think, well, of course you can play it. Everybody can play it. You have 10-year-olds who are learning it. So, but that's after. Yeah,
Especially now, when there is
that's
this
right.
profusion of virtuosity.
That's right. And but it all comes from the fact that one person did it first, and one person said, "Okay, this is worth hearing. I'm going to learn it." And then somehow, little by little, and then through recordings and through now video and through the internet, now it just explodes. All of this becomes part of our collective conscious that tells us, yeah, it's possible. We can all do this. Humans, and then we somehow travel beyond and look for the
And
new challenge.
some of the most famous live performances of classical music in the 20th century were of this piece. The two that you mentioned, for example, that fundraising concert in 1943,
Mhm.
when Toscanini introduced his son-in-law
Amazing.
um, um, in as soloist in this piece, and it made such a huge impact. And then, of
Mhm.
course, Van Cliburn at the Tchaikovsky competition,
Right.
which was front page headlines in every newspaper around the world. I would like to play just a couple of little excerpts to give our audience, who may not immediately connect to the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto, an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about writing for the piano that must have seemed unplayable at the time. Now, this is before Rachmaninoff, but it's after Liszt. Is this, in what way is this technically just a leap from Schumann and Beethoven and obviously Mozart and even Liszt and Chopin? Is it really essentially different in the technical demands?
I think in a lot of ways, yes, because, you know, first, again, you know, with this music, we've all many composers write octaves, many composers write, you know, parallel octaves, but not in the kinds of positions that Tchaikovsky is, not in the same way harmonically and with the intervals that, you know, he used to kind of make the octave passages even somewhat melodic, even though they're really, really just exciting and visceral. And the other thing is that the orchestra was continually getting louder, which meant that the pianist had to do even more to just stay afloat. And another one of Rubinstein's criticisms is like, well, there's so much going on at the piano, but if you can't hear it under all the orchestra, what's the point of even learning it? Which is a good question, but, you know, that necessitated then the pianist trying to find new ways of making this material just stand up in front of the very large and very even more powerful orchestras. So, and, you know, then from there you get to Rachmaninoff, you get to Shostakovich, you get to Prokofiev, and it's really a completely different ballgame in terms of sonic possibilities, because the range just explodes, and the piano, the development of the piano is also getting louder and more powerful. So there's there are a lot of kind of things that are not just musical, but also instrumental and physical that I think contributes to the difficulty of playing something like this. And by the way, that part that you just played is so super scary. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you play it, it's always scary, and it never feels like you know how to really do it. But
yeah. And yet he also brings us inside in the most tender ways. Here's another example. It's so personal. It's beautiful. So self-revealing. And I guess that's the magic golden ticket of Tchaikovsky, that it is so intimate and so heartfelt and also so amazingly dramatic. And that's Tchaikovsky's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
His short life. Here's one last, and by the way, these are all excerpts of Jon Nakamatsu playing the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto with the Peninsula Symphony, by the way. Okay, so here's everything all wrapped up in one. it's just,
Exciting music.
it really is. And it calls on every emotional level that we can that we can experience as audience members or as performers. It's just an amazing musical experience every single time.
It'll be a nice way to just celebrate our reunion in many ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, a month ago we were highly concerned about whether we'd be able to
Mhm.
have this concert, and it's one that we've really looked forward to, and the orchestra has particularly looked forward to playing, with this piece and Russian Easter and the
Mhm.
Shostakovich Fifth, which is such a monumental piece as
Mhm.
well. And here we go. We're going to do it, and it's going to be
Yay.
great.
Excellent.
So here's looking forward to our collaboration, the Peninsula Symphony, and our great favorite pianist, Jon Nakamatsu, on February 25th and 26th. And we can't wait to see you.
Thank you. I can't wait for this week. It'll be really, really, really fun.
Terrific. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all soon.